Hello again. Since reading a piece in my newspaper yesterday, an article to which I give a link in the description to this video, I have been asking myself a simple question. It's a genuine question. It is one which viewers might care to ask themselves, particularly if they are men. What possible motive might I have for dressing up as a woman and then tricking my way into a lesbian speed dating event? This is not, by the way, some hypothetical case. It is actually happening at such events, and they are now having to be held in secret so that men cannot gatecrash them. Why would somebody with a penis wish to get into something of that kind? Well, I suppose that one reason might be if I had a peculiar sexual kink about lesbians and was desperately keen to persuade a lesbian to get in the sack with me being a man with a penis. Other explanations might be, no, that's the only reason I can actually come up with. The fact is, and I'm sure that many viewers will know this, lesbians don't in general want to go to bed with or even date people with penises. I can understand that very readily. I feel much the same way myself. The idea of going to bed with somebody with a penis simply does not excite me. And this is not homophobia or transphobia or anything of that kind. It just isn't what I want to do. Some men, though, cannot accept this and are determined to press their attentions upon the people who are most unwilling to respond to them. That's what's going on with trans people who insist that they are really lesbians. They've driven lesbian bars and clubs and even speed dating events underground with their threats. Any place for lesbians which insists that only women can attend is being picketed, threatened, and venues are refusing to host them. They simply cannot bear the idea that women want spaces where they will not have to come into contact with men. This is, of course, bullying. This is men not wanting women to have places by themselves. It's men pushing their way into women's places where they're not wanted. It's not a new phenomenon. I can remember many years ago, more than 50 years ago, men used to be irritated by lesbians and they would say, oh, what you want is a good cock inside you, dear, and various things like that. You might have thought that in this day and age, that particular mentality had died out, but it hasn't. That's why men with penises are still trying to get into bed with lesbians, and why they're still making life absolutely unendurable for lesbians. One interesting aspect of the business is that you don't often hear about these men trying to muscle their way into heterosexual speed dating and so on. You would think that if they really are, despite all outward appearances and possessing male genitals, really women, that most of them would be heterosexual, just as real women are. That is to say that they would prefer men. They don't quite seem to fancy speed dating with men, though, for the very obvious reason that if a straight man ends up in bed with somebody after a few drinks and finds that the supposed woman has a penis, things are apt to get pretty unpleasant and even violent. It's much safer to try this trick on women. Am I the only one to ask why it is that so many of these supposed women are actually sexually interested only in women? That's a clue as to whom they really are. And in a really shocking case involving this kind of thing, I give a link to this too in the description to this video, a 73-year-old woman in the Yorkshire town of Hebden Bridge, a retired social worker, saw that a poster with a transsexual flag had been covered by a sticker which read, keep males out of women-only spaces. She was intrigued by this and took a photograph of it with her mobile. A few days later, the police turned up at her home. They had tracked her down by studying CCTV footage and said that they were investigating a hate crime. They talked to her at length about the rights of transsexuals and so on. That even taking a photograph of a sticker saying keep males out of women-only spaces should be treated as a hate crime is almost beyond belief. Those of us who have tried in vain to get the police to come round to investigate a burglary or act of vandalism might perhaps be a little irritated to find that they have all the time in the world to analyse CCTV footage to try and find out who it is in Yorkshire who thinks that males should be kept out of women's spaces. If only they were so diligent about real crimes.